Hello, welcome back. If you've come before to one of these live streams, just gonna close this curtain slightly. It's a bit bright because we've had anybody else in Northern Europe be aware of our scorching temperatures recently. So we had a pretty warm one here in Manchester. So luckily today it's a little bit cooler. So what I'm going to start with is sketchbook tour today. We're going to talk about sketchbooks, and I'm just going to show you some stuff. I've always kind of kept sketchbooks. I like to kind of keep a record of what I'm doing and things going on in my life and things like that. So it's a nice way of doing it. Let me just transition into this first picture. Cool. Okay, so ignore the Iceland background there. The Iceland background is actually that's a place called Vik, and this actually is from my honeymoon. I went to Vik. Went to Iceland, and Vik was one of the places. I might actually pop myself into this little source. Oh no, I'll leave it like that. It's too complicated. So yeah. Anyway, this is a tiny little Moleskin sketchbook, and it's basically I was waiting for Josie, my wife, to and it's this place called Blue Lagoon. If anybody's ever been to Iceland, it's like a sort of a tourist hotspot thing, but it's really nice, and you can go and swim in the thermal waters and things. But this is a small Moleskin sketchbook. So to give you an example on screen, I literally cannot find anything today. So I'm going to transition in. There's kind of when you've got a screen and you can't find your mouse on the screen. That's happened every time today. I don't know why. But so this is the size I take normally when I'm going away somewhere. That's like in my pocket, or it fits in like a little pencil case with a watercolor set. So I tend to take this everywhere. I don't know if it is exactly this one that I drew it in, but there's actually other stuff in here that I didn't put in this tour. So maybe I'll have to do another one. But you can see that like I do lots of quick kind of black and white sketches in there if I don't have colors with me. But then if I do want to do colors, it's not a big deal because it doesn't take too long to paint. So that's that one. And then this is like the big brother of it. This one I still take with me. Sometimes I'm less inclined to draw into these because I tend to draw like you'll see these a little bit smaller. So these are good for notes and things this size, and they're Moleskin ones. They're astronomically expensive, and to be honest, I'm not a massive fan of the paper quality. I find it's weird sometimes with water, like watercolor, which I tend to use. It's good for ink, but and sketches. But I feel like sometimes I find it quite difficult to just draw in those things because I'm like, this thing cost me a lot of money. So there's other sort of Moleskin imitations out there, and the best thing about this is that it kind of like goes flat. So that's good if you're going to draw across both pages. And I kind of like the off-white color of it as well. But and it's got a little flap on the back, but probably doesn't make it worth its price. But they're nice sketchbooks. I would just say like experiment with something that you find if you're looking for something like that's a very smooth paper. Some people like a bit more texture. So those are the ones that you're seeing here. Now let me go back to this. So there we are. This was Blue Lagoon. This was in the small one. And then what we got next? Oops, I don't want two of them up. And we've got more Iceland. Oh no, this was in the medium size. Beg your pardon. This was the slightly larger one. So you can see the difference. That was actually quite I can kind of tell when I look at it now a bit more. This was in a larger sketchbook because the line is quite loose and almost a bit rushed. I tend to not give myself loads of time when I'm drawing, often trying to capture gesture and things like that. And just an idea. If I get time for putting color on it, I'm like in a great place because generally it's cross hatching to give myself ideas of shading and things. And I'll probably take a picture with the idea of coloring it later, and then I never end up coloring that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's just one of those things. But you can see here I've kind of split it down into several pieces, and that's several sections. And I find that is my go-to, like that's the sort of thing that I'll tend to do, and it will make my life a little bit easier. Um, okay, so next next image. I'm just messing around with my thing so I can see the chat as well. Let's go to this one. Okay, so this one was you can see this has actually got watercolor on it. It was a very quick sort of line drawing. I draw a lot in pen, and very quick line drawing that was done in Norfolk, and it's in a nice house where me and my family, and like it's quite a big place. It had a really cool converted downstairs where you could see out onto this paddock. But it's a really loose drawing, and this was done. I remember very early in the morning. I just got up and I was waiting for other people to get up. Um, it's sort of October time, so it's got that kind of hazy white light outside, and it was interesting because I wanted to try and do something really loose, really quick, and I thought, well, I'll put a bit of color on it, just splash some on. Now you can see the paper has really not taken the watercolor very well here. I tend to find it can be like a stylistic thing, but it doesn't allow me to do really nice pigmentation a lot of the time with Moleskin sketchbooks or similar ones like that, ones with really smooth paper. So I kind of like it in this because the lighting was like that. You'll see as well, I do this sort of thing where I do a draw through. Um, that's something that I find sometimes quite hard to do. Like here, I tend to leave the white edge because it helps with the depth when you're using watercolor. Watercolor and pen is the thing I've used the most for. Like I'm by no means like a super established artist, but I do a lot of watercolor and pen and ink sort of thing. So for me, finding a pen that if I want that effect, which I normally do, doesn't bleed when I put water on it is really important. I have a couple of different thicknesses. I generally prefer to draw thicker because then it allows me to draw bigger, which allows me, sort of easier times. Although this one, I was looking for like a really nice, expansive, clean line. So this worked better in what would it be, like an A5 sketchbook? So it's still not a big sketchbook. I'm quite a small kind of drawer. I like to draw little detailed things. So you can see here I'm kind of having fun with the little chess set and things. But yeah, this overlap, I really enjoy doing that. This was an experiment pushing. It's I'm kind of it's a good memory. If anybody has any questions, by the way, as I'm going through this, feel free to jump in and just ask. I'm always interested in everybody else's like sketchbook habits, and if anybody has anything in particular that they like to do, preference in material, or just kind of habits of how you make yourself draw regular. Because I find that I do really enjoy it when I get going, but sometimes I get a bit resistance to starting. So this page has got a lot of different character ideas. I can tell by that Norfolk mushroom on the left-hand page there that this was started in Norfolk. I tend to find when I'm in on holiday or like away from home, my creative side of my brain just comes out a little bit more, like it loosens off. I tend to not be so stilted with ideas. I tend to be a bit freer. So there's some character designs there on these pages of the character on the right hand page, which was the start of well, it is the start here of a character that is in the advanced rigging course on my Adams Animation Academy, and so we build this character. That's an initial design sort of exploration process. And then here we have a little diary thing. I use my sketchbooks quite a lot as kind of combination diaries and sketches. So this is me getting a wonderful COVID test. Oh, like those wonderful times. And then seeing Grayson Perry in the airport and eating his Boots meal deal. These sort of things help me remember the trips way better than photographs. And I remember this like really expansive roof that was in T5 in Heathrow in London. And if you take a photo of that sort of thing, you've probably done it yourself. You take a photo of something that's amazing, and everyone goes, "Oh, the photo doesn't do it justice." I find that's where your sketch comes in, because for me, I'll always remember this really brilliant blue sky out the window, and the really incredible roof structure, and this cool dude here with the green sort of track. It was a green tracksuit, and he had like sort of fedora thing on. It was a really unusual combination going on holiday. But yeah, I'll remember this. And this kind of extreme, you can't really see it, but there's this amazing fan system of air conditioning and extraction, which I only noticed because I drew the thing. So here we are. This is arriving in Phoenix. This one is my mum's drawing. She'll be very embarrassed by the fact that I've shown that to the world. But I do try and get people to sketch sometimes, just for the fun of it. This is me first day driving out with my brother into Phoenix and just kind of the color and stuff, and a walk up Camelback Mountain and sort of looking over suburban Phoenix. Again, this is one where I took a photo of it, but the photo was really only for placement reference because I did the sketch when I came back down. And then it was like the ideas of these tiny pockets of green, but most of it being burnt out and this really powerful sun that was definitely not this low in the sky, but I pulled it in for the, and the same with the rocks. This is kind of like, it felt to me like the mouth when I saw the photograph. So I was like, oh, it's like teeth looking outside of a mouth. Um, so it became a whole story on its own, like inside a giant's mouth. Some weird cacti, just weird designs. My brother's daughter, Lucy, when she was just about 5 months. She's now over one now. So nice little snapshot there wearing my hat. A jackfruit. I think it's only like the second or third time I've seen an actual jackfruit in the supermarket and picked it up, like recognized, because I didn't know what jackfruit was before I was first having like vegan food. And it's a weird thing. So I did a little doodle. A lot of purple in that picture there. And this is kind of like the area where my brother lives and the houses. Some ideas for a short film here, and some more diary stuff. Um, and yeah, I think that's about it. Nothing else. Me telling myself to relax, which is always an interesting one. I tend to write that quite a lot in my diaries. Okay, this is on its side, but I can't be bothered to flip this around now. So you just have to enjoy this. Really early morning when I woke up in winter time, nearly Christmas, and I went to the Starbucks at Trafford Centre. But it's kind of weird because it's got this Venetian Roman like opulence, and the sky was pretty mad. It was like purpley pink, uplighting all the clouds. So just a little doodle. First time drawing my new car that I had because the other one got crashed. No, I've not flipped all of these. Oh well. Well, anyway, you'll just have to enjoy this one. This one's an upside down version of Manchester. Hopefully, let's just see if I have flipped any of these. Let me change my tack on this. I'm going to go to back to me for a second whilst I set up a different way of looking at this. Let's have a go. Because I thought I flipped all these pictures. Okay. But yeah, anyway, you're getting a good taste so far. If anybody's got any questions, now would be a fantastic time to ask. Hopefully the fan on my computer is not too disturbing. Just pull this into here. I'm just going to put this in Bridge because I don't know if many people use Adobe Bridge, but it's a powerful bit of kit. And it allows you to flip stuff easily, which on a Mac is not always that easy. Right, let's go back. Crazy mouse. Right, here we go. Transition. There we go. All right, so this is the one correctly flipped. This across, so you can see what's going on here. Okay, so yeah, let's just go back. There's this one. Nothing exciting up there. So this is again a view from, I think this was actually where I was walking the dog, and you get loads of good ideas. So this was one that I'm just sort of standing there waiting for the dog to kind of have a sniff around, and there's these new sort of high rises in Deansgate, which is sort of in the west of the center of town, and they've got this incredible bluish reflective glass anyway, and then they're reflecting the blue of the sky. But there was a storm coming in, so the top of them was black, and then it was almost like going to this from this really deep black blue to a light blue, which was really cool. So I thought I want to get back and we're just going to sketch that from memory. These imposing clouds around. So quick, small sketch in pencil crayon to color this one in. These houses are just kind of from memory, but bearing in mind I walk there almost every day. It wasn't too difficult. These birds were strategically put with the dramatic scale and so on. And then some ideas going back to Phoenix in Arizona, where my brother lives. Some ideas from like cacti and things for paintings and just like composition ideas. Really small little sketches. You can tell by the thickness of the pen line. This one goes back a little bit further from one time when I was in Dublin, and I went into a upstairs of a pub that has like an Irish language sort of club, and all these kind of old guys came in and were just chatting away. It was a really rainy trip, which is not uncommon for Dublin, but yeah, I just sketched this with the pen, and then I had like a grey sort of, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a grey, almost like a felt pen thing, and just use that to shade. Now I went massively overkill here, but I was noodling around with the drawing because of the fact that I had just time to kill. Like I was waiting for the rain to pass. So yeah, that's why this ended up looking like it did. But I kind of like it. It reminds me a lot. These lamps here, they were really big, but they definitely weren't this big. But I do that thing that you'll see in my drawings. I'm a little bit like, when kids first learn to draw and they discover hands, so they draw them massive, and then discover like daddy has longer legs than the child, so then draws daddy with massive legs and like disproportionate. I'm kind of like that when I draw stuff. If I like something or it's really imposing to me, I'll generally draw it larger. Not always on purpose, just because I kind of like to draw that way. I find like if you just, I'm not a massive fan of trying to perfectly replicate life. One, because I find it really difficult, and two, like for me, that's what photos are for. I like it when when you can see somebody's own personal sort of take on it. Like I can tell what's more important to them. Like this little picture of this horse and this jockey in the background. I thought was really cool. So I give it plenty of negative space around it. Christchurch Cathedral, again, a bit of forced perspective there, pushing it away to try and get that idea of scale on a page when I basically run out of space at the top. And this is a failed sort of section where I just sort of left it, start to sketch it, but kind of blends in nicely. So again, a lot of black and white, trying to get some depth in there with the black cross hatching. Another one outside of my spare room window. This one, felt pen, just quite a quick one. We get some incredible sunsets and like the best views from this room, but photos are just never do it justice. Two, I'm never going to look at those photos again. So I prefer to do them as a sketch because I don't know why, it just adds more meaning for me. So I find it quite interesting. And this is getting more into the story side of things. When we used to have a load of ivy at one of the trees, and we saw these pigeons um, kind of get the big fat one, Percy, and the other one, Prue, and they were making a nest. And we imagined, well, we could see them going in behind this sort of bush, and then figured that's where the nest was. So I did like a cut through, imagined how they entered through this bush door, tree door, and some little steps up. Maybe pictures of their holiday snaps up there. A ballpoint pen sketch, which I don't normally do because they tend to look a bit rubbish. But this was I was working at Ardman on a project, and just for like a week. And I've not really like been to their studio loads and loads of times. So I still find it quite interesting when I go to Bristol to kind of, it's got a very interesting history, and the mix of like modern and the old stuff is really, it's fascinating. They have it in the UK all over the place. They have it in Europe all over the place. And you see these things that were like so important at the time, like a canal, for example. It's just like they're really nice places to sort of, especially near the city, the nice places to walk along. But at the time, you watch Peaky Blinders or something, there's a good reference of like how rough and like nasty, kind of dangerous they were at the time. Weren't somewhere where you wanted to probably go and like a nice stroll on a Sunday with your children or something like that. So, and Bristol's got a lot of this kind of thing. Had these new builds over there, crane chucked in there to give a bit of that nod to the future. And then this Bristol boat trips, and I like this guy's pose. He did stay there almost the whole time that I was drawing, which I thought was fun. That was nice little pose for me. And this anchor, which is quite badly drawn in this area, but you try and draw an anchor; they're not easy to draw. A view from crew, flying past on the train. I like doing these little kind of panoramics. I'll often get a sketchbook and split it into sort of three rectangles like this, like landscape ones, and then try and look out the window of a train and do a quick sketch, like a snapshot sketch of the rolling landscape. It works really well in England because we have lots of really nice countryside. I can see where I remember looking at these sort of slight curvatures, almost like spirals on the side of the hill. And I remember it just by looking at that. So I don't know if everybody gets that sort of thing, but I definitely do. If I draw something, it's basically like in my brain for a long time. So, I mean, this was 4 years ago, but I've got sketches that we're going to go past that I can remember it like it was yesterday. Some weird terminology there for an idea about a film. And this is more character sketches. So I tend to do little doodles of characters and things. Um, Mainly like kind of constructiony stuff. This was a little actual drawing of somebody walking with their dog. That might even be my wife. I don't remember. She's not that tall, you see. So can't remember if it is or if it's just drew a random person walking a dog. But I was probably sitting on a bench in the park when I drew these because that makes sense. But some ideas here for character designs. Often thinking, how would I put this stuff together and so on. Again, the draw through construction. I draw quite loose to start with, really light with the pen, and then I start to go over it a bit more. I'm not like a fussy, like, oh, I have to be super clean. Again, one, because I'm bad at it, and two, it's just like I don't enjoy it as much, so I tend to keep it quite loose. And then some figure sketching stuff. So you can see, and you will probably notice yourself, like some of these, it's always a little bit difficult to share this sort of thing because sometimes you're like, oh, that's bad. But I wanted to show you what it looks like when I'm a bit rusty. Like some of these are clunky and not great, but I tend to draw quite like really messy, and I'm trying to find my drawings tend to be a bit flatter when I'm rustier. This one here is not so bad. You're starting to feel some like construction here. It's getting all over the place around the waist. So again, I tried to put some head construction in there, and it's just turned out really awful. This like baby's not desperately bad, but yeah, again, just one of those things. I tend to find sometimes people when they show their sketchbook stuff, they only show the highlights. Like I'm not going to show you all my terrible stuff, but I'd say for every good page, there's a couple of bad pages in there, unfinished ones. So it's not always perfect. This is a sketch of the living room when I was bored in lockdown. Um, got plenty of time to look at the living room. Weird scale in here again. This is the thing I do. For me, the curtains are really boring because they're quite tall and they're not that interesting. So I kind of shrunk them down and made the window. It makes it feel cozier because for me, the living room felt a little bit oppressive and small. Like the flat was feeling smaller. We have quite big rooms now, flat because it's kind of like a post-war build, but that it was starting to feel more and more claustrophobic. So I drew it a little bit claustrophobic subconsciously. I just was trying to capture like the feeling of being stuck inside, really. So um, sit on the sofa a lot when, especially, I mean, during lockdown, we were sitting on the sofa loads, and it was quite appealing and comfy. So this has been made look very nice and comfy over here. Um, these all this line and shading and stuff is representing the shadow here, obviously, but that for me, there was a lot of it was feeling quite cramped, organized but cramped. So I guess that comes across a little bit. And then we have some more character sketches, just general things, everything from observation from life to other things, a little note about things like things I hear, notes about software. I don't know what this is about. This I'm having a meltdown. I don't remember that one, but I can see a few people who I've worked with in animation on that page. And then these are some Inktober squares, day 10, day 11. And they're drawn quite large, and to show you sort of the me playing around with different like shading and line styles. I really like this one. I'd like to make this into a proper painting because I feel like it's got this almost cartoony, like rubbery, shiny, plasticky feel to it, but it's in this um, quite surreal setting. This one is gross, but I put it in there because it was next to the other one. And then more Inktober things. Again, you can see the difference in, I'm using different pen thicknesses here. So I've got like a zero 0.3, a 0.5, and then you'll see here, this is like a zero 0.1, probably a 0.05 here for the inside of the mouth shading. So I use those like micron pens or anything that's basically is light fast and doesn't, is water resistant. I don't like the ones that necessarily are like you have to, the ones that flatten as you draw with them, they for me are a nightmare because I tend to draw quite upright with my holding the pen quite upright, so I end up with a flat tip and I have to get rid of them pretty quickly. This one is going back to another travel sketch. Now a lot of my sketches are done when I'm traveling because that's most of the time when I pick up the sketchbook, to be honest. I'd love to do it more. And I'd love to have just a section where I just always have a book open sketchbook or some paper just to doodle on. Probably one of the most creative times of my life was when I was about between like 7 and 10 years old because my mom used to bring me this kind of like brown paper that you'd wrap wine bottles and things in when she worked in a like a wine shop. And well, I guess you just call it an off license actually, but because they sold beer as well. But she used to bring me that because it was cheap and I could draw on it. But it was massive. It was like A2 size, and I used to doodle on that stuff all the time, and I'd have it on my desk all the time. So anything that I'd be doing would go on top, and then I just all I had to do was move it out of the way, and I'd be back to my massive sheet of paper, and I could either pick up on a drawing that I'd started or just draw something else, and it didn't matter because it was so throwaway. So for me, that's like the dream is to have like a big, just sheets of paper. I think also I got kind of back into that when I was working in Dublin at a studio where they used to give us animation paper, which wasn't being used at the time because we were working on computers. So I used to doodle a lot on the animation paper, and that would be like my warm up in the morning and things. So that was really cool, and I still got quite a few of those drawings. So this is going to flying to Brisbane and going to meet Josie, my then girlfriend, now wife. When she was doing a tour. She's an actress, and she was going to do a tour in a theatre show. So I was flying over, and this is kind of these crazy Turkish mountains. Like it's they were all like snow capped, but this really brilliant orange because the sun was going down, so it was hitting them at a funny angle. And wow, it was just crazy. So another one of those ones where the photo doesn't really do it justice. Some weird stuff that we saw in, I think it was in Brisbane. This band is called Henge, and they're quite popular now, I think. But the person dancing as a mushroom is one of our friends, and she is dating this guy, I think. And this is somebody who was just like enjoying the show. It's really weird music. I think it's I can't remember the concept. I think the idea is that they've come from a planet to save humans, or they're educating the human race, something like that. It's got a really nice like story to it, and lots of like quick doodly sketches again, just with the pens and stuff. This one is a sketch of in New Zealand and an old sort of like tin roofed cottage, very old fashioned Kiwi house. This was where we were staying at Josie's brother's house. Yeah, it was really nice. So it's quite warm. It's Christmas time, and it was there you go, 1st of January. And yeah, it was warm, and it was nice to be warm at that time of year. Not used to it, so I did a little sketch to try and remember the place. This one's Bath Spa. again, another hot day, you can see how the watercolor reacts differently when it's warmer. So that for me is something that I really enjoy, like how watercolor is very like you've got to be quick. You can't faff around with it, and it really doesn't like play to people being too precise. And I know you can paint precisely with watercolor, but it lends itself to kind of a looser style. It's harder to control, and I really enjoy that because it suits the way how I sketch. Like in all honesty, you can turn a sketch that's like not great into something that looks pretty good with watercolor if you know what you're doing with it. You just got to make sure you leave the correct amount of white space so that I can read what it's looking at. And when you shade things, I mean, this tree isn't like great in terms of how I've shaded it, but you can still read what it is. So that's cool. I can see how my style has changed since 4 years ago. I can see what I would do slightly differently now in terms of how I would approach shadows. Uh, but yeah, it's a really nice little memory. So I remember that day because it was super hot and I was just sitting in the shade and yeah, not as hot as yesterday, but it was really nice to paint outside and see everybody gather under this massive tree that was just giving everybody this natural shade. This is a more like an unfinished, I guess, in a way, sketchbook. This is what a lot of mine end up looking like. If I ever use anything charcoaly, it gets all smudged, and because I always forget to use fixative, and who's got time for that? But these are ideas for concept. Well, this is home theatre, cinema, and the restaurant. But these are all concepts for some ideas for a theatre show and like projections and color ideas and so on. I find it really interesting working in and around theatre because not that I've really done loads of it, but just kind of riffing off the ideas because it's for me like it's the live action version of animation in terms of like the real life version. If you're not drawing it, theatre's the thing where you can do anything. I know people would say film, but um, for me, you have this thing of like the tangible aspect of it being live, and that for me is like a little bit less constructed. So it's like you can really create something that's can never be replicated again. And I guess the animation equivalent of that would be like closer to puppetry, which comes into theatre. So it's somewhere in between there. I think it's like the real loose one. But that's why I like again sketching with watercolor and stuff because it's like, or just sketching in general. You're capturing something that nobody else is ever going to have that moment. So it's quite a special thing if you can appreciate it that way. And these are some start of some storyboards that I obviously decided I didn't want to finish. Getting into some life drawing now. I always use a little number with the square in. I'm pretty sure I've nick that off somebody else when I've seen them do it, but this is what this means, how long the sketch roughly is. So yeah, some loose drawings here. I really like gesture drawing, and I go between, this is kind of experimental for me in terms of like how wobbly that line is and where I've put the highlight. But gesture for me is what I've learned in terms of life drawing. I'm not very representative of the exact shape. And here's a good example, like I've kind of exaggerated the foreshortening here in the legs and the arm. And then back to some more cartoony stuff. You don't see loads of this in my sketchbooks compared to what I used to. I don't draw loads of cartoons per se nowadays. I do enjoy it. It's just I sometimes get annoyed with myself because I don't really like what I draw with cartoons. I like to go from real life and then simplify, and that then I'll find like a space to rest, so to speak, in terms of how realistic it is. Some more life drawing, nice gestury stuff. I really love this kind of stuff where I can hardly tell what it is. Same here, like the hands up here and this sort of shape. I mean, these are minute long sketches, so there's no pre-drawing or anything in this. It's just kind of like sketched. And for these ones you've just seen, there's probably this is maybe 2% of the drawing. So I am showing you my favorites from these. This is a sketch from when I was quite rusty, actually. It's quite a few years old, this one, probably a good 10 years old. But I like it because of the composition, because it's quite unusual. So this is back in Nottingham, where I'm from, and this is the bus to a town called Bingham, where I grew up. and I only had a red pencil and a pen, and we were kind of like stopped on this bus, and I was sketching everybody going into the going to see Nottingham Forest into the football ground, and so it kind of worked out quite well. But yeah, again, it's I was super rusty here and enjoyed how that one's turned out. Great drawing of their logo there. A 10-minute sketch. I like this one because there's like a real, for me, I've captured the form. Like I can feel the squishiness of flesh and things and the bone and that. And again, like legs are massive, heads are really small, but I enjoy that. And I like how I've redrawn the hand. This is when I first moved to Manchester. Apparently, I couldn't spell, but managed to get there in the end. And this was looking out of the blinds in my new place where I was renting. And I remember it really clearly. It was like my first couple of months there. And I can remember just kind of sitting one Sunday and looking out the window and being like, "Oh, okay, this is my new life." So yeah, just doing a little sketch whilst having a think about the world. This was done in, I think this was actually brush, a brush sort of like inky pen thing. It might have even been just straight watercolor, black watercolor. But yeah, I like it because it's loose, and this is like for me, life drawing is this is like my jam. This is where I like to sit. Um, I think I maybe showed this before in a really short video, but anyway, this pub, Ye Old Nelson's half like knocked down, new flats in the background being built, and I went and sketched this up in Salford, and it was gone like a couple of months later. So this is a nice little time capsule. I really enjoyed how the bricks and everything, like when stuff's decaying, it almost suits watercolor really, really well because it's just, you've got all these little bits that you can't really capture that detail if you try and paint. Well, it's going to take you ages. But if you paint with any other medium, but watercolor, it's almost like, oh, okay, I'm going to give you that effect naturally. And there was a real storm coming in and these heavy clouds, and sort of messed it up with the watercolor, and then it worked. So just let the thing do its job. Lancaster up in the north, again, a quick sketch, warm day. You can tell by the way how the color is sitting on that. It's the pigment dried very quickly. And some sketches of people around Lancaster just hanging out. It's one of my things I'd like to try and improve on. I'm always trying to improve on sketching people. I tend to go a bit flat with them. Um, but I go through periods of where I'm more confident. Media City here in Manchester, a very grey day, represented with the grey in their actual color itself. And Inktober there. And this is in a larger sketchbook. This is actually some kind of cartoony-esque color. Now, I don't normally do this. This is ages old, this. So just playing around with a fine line, but then putting some actual color in, like the pink of these fingers and things. These are all me. So this is like the narcissism page here. But I think I was trying to design a new logo for a website, for my own website. And this is me being very kind to myself with a giant forehead and things. Don't know why I'm a devil in this one, but yeah, anyway, it's interesting to look back on it, playing with the line, just trying to get a nice weight, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, 2010, so ages ago. But this one is watercolor, but I've used it a little bit like acrylic. I've painted it really flat. I think I went over it loads and loads of times because I was trying to capture this bold color, especially like these shadows and things. I think the steps are the thing that work. The rest of it is okay, but I like it because it's in a big sketchbook, so it's quite a nice image to see, and it's something I'd like to play around with. I'm always saying, "Oh, I'd like to paint some more." I really just need to pick up the brush and get on with it, to be honest. But yeah, this was good fun to do this. Here are some sketches of my old dog. He was called Alfie. He was like a cross Yorkshire Terrier, and this was a story that was developing about him, just going on a day out. And you can see how things change because this is this character here, and then this sort of thing comes out of nowhere, and who knows what's going on down here. So I get other ideas from what I'm doing. This was the first second time I went to Annecy. I think I was excited about that, so maybe I drew that around then. Yeah, I think that's all I've got to say for that one. And an idea for I drew this one earlier this year. This was an idea for so I use my sketchbooks to sometimes. Oh, I can just see Danny said hi, Danny. I love pylons, but are they a beast? Yeah, they are tough to draw. Yeah, they're not easy. But again, I think loose with a pen, drawing a pylon, like who actually knows how that thing looks properly? Like it's kind of goes up into a triangle with some sticky out bits. So you do that with a fine liner, and everyone's like, "Ah, it's a great pylon." And then obviously the wires connecting it up. So they give this really nice sense of scale as well. It's almost like drawing uh, sort of perspective lines by using those connecting lines. So if you get a good pylon in there, yeah, you've nailed it. This is a sketch for a garden corner that I did for, again, massively, not to scale, but that's kind of how I roll with things. It allows me to get away with a bit more. Some thumbnails of ideas. So I approached this very similar to how I'd approach an animation project. And I was just doing some concepts for like our community garden in the flats where I live to show to other people to try and get them on board, spend a bit of money. And yeah, like the floor and these sort of this bamboo stuff and all that is not like right, but it doesn't matter because I'm trying to just sell it a little bit. And I think most people, when they look at this kind of thing, the thing that you are critical of, they don't care. They just see the thing, like the energy, the color, that they'll pick up on the stuff. Like I want people to look at this sunflower and the idea of like flowers and variety and area to sit and stuff. They're going to hopefully get that from this. Like it's meant to be inviting and positive and happy, and the yellow's saying that. So a little bit of understanding of color theory helps, but um, I ran out of time with this. So like the greenery and stuff, how I've painted it is, yeah, it's not great, but it does the job. Back to sketching now for some characters. I think it's from life drawing actually, and this one was I think it's like some sort of weird character, like almost like a Disney character we were going for. But I thought the poses were cool, and they had this sort of long outfit on that created really nice silhouettes and shapes. I was super rusty when I did this class. I remember feeling like, oh man, I hate life drawing. But um, looking back on them now, like it's fun. I remember it really. The costume was amazing, and it had a lot of cool stuff going on. So it was fun to just get stuck in and have a go. Don't normally draw like this. This isn't a great drawing just because the proportions are slightly off. But I wanted to show you this because a lot of people send me things like this and go, "Hey, I want to, be an animator or do this kind of thing. I've done this drawing, and it's cool to do this kind of thing as like a study. But if you're trying to sketch to improve, or draw to improve, you need to sort of, in my mind, have like a thing you're focusing on. So I this character is like 1930s 20s style. So they've got like a high belt, high waistband, oversized sort of jacket. This shoulder, this top part of the arm's a little bit short. The jacket was short anyway. It had this unusual effect, so it didn't help me. But it's a little flat. It's drawn from an image on a screen, so that's also flattened it off. The hat's not quite sitting right on the head. Lost a bit of form there, but it was cool because I was trying to focus on the main thing I liked was the folds of the clothing and the shading, so I was trying to get that across with it. I kinda like the shading on the head, but it for me is that's all it is as a drawing, the veins and stuff, kind of fun, but that was the thing I was focusing on, so I wasn't trying to, like, produce a perfect drawing, and I think if you have that idea in mind, you'll improve. So if you're trying to improve your drawing, try and focus on one thing, 1 or 2 things at a time, and then do a little critique for yourself. Try not to be too harsh, and just go like, you're not gonna be perfect. Most people draw bad drawings all the time. I think Quentin Blake's famous for saying in his 80s, he's like, "If I get like 1 in 10 that's good and usable, I'm happy with that." Like that guy's been drawing for ages. He's still lucky happy with 1 in 10. So you gotta be a bit kind of lenient on yourself. Um, and then this one is I don't know what this guy's doing here, but this is a sketch of me and my mom actually, and my dog and her little dog. Um, And we were up this is when we were up in Bamburgh in Northumberland. If you've never been around there, it's amazing. If you live in the UK, it's wicked. So we went down, I can't remember where it was. I think it was like late summer. And I got up to take Wilson out because he was still a puppy and he needed to go out. And my mum was up and we just walked down the road to where the beach is. They filmed some like films along here. It's a really long, flat, wide, expansive sandy beach. And we saw dolphins just like hanging out, which in the UK is not that common. And they were just frolicking around, and it was a couple of minutes. So I went back home, and after breakfast, I did this little sketch because it's quite a nice little moment. I did a little bit of stuff like to create a nice image, like subtle, of our body language. Like the idea, it's like makes us a little bit closer because we shared this moment together. So that's for me, like when I say we, I mean as artists, when you can put a little bit of something personal into it. That's like I always try and approach a sketch with like, what's my aim with this? What am I trying to get out of this? Some more life drawing. I'm left-handed. This was drawn with my right hand in 3 minutes, and I love it. It's probably one of my favorite life drawings. I love the like chunky forearm and weird wobbly limbs and stuff, and the negative space here in between like the underside of the arm and the breast and things, and like just the shape of the hair. Like this one was a blind drawing where I've got my eyes shut and I'm sort of I say blind. I'm looking at the person, but I'm not looking at the paper. So it's really strange. And this is more what the person actually looked like. And you'll see in the next image. But yeah, I really like this. So if you're ever really stuck, swap your hand over and draw with the other hand. It's a good one. This person had some really cool like body sort of jewelry and things. Really out of proportion. I mean, this arm was foreshortened, but it just looks a little bit too small for me. But and then a different one. So I kind of different uh, look. Like this was more about the eyes, and then this one was about sort of the rectangular angles and stuff going on. So it made the head and the hair fall differently for me. So I drew it slightly differently. So I'm not trying to make somebody look the same all the time, you know. Getting towards the end now, so thanks for sticking with me. Or if you are watching this on replay, not too long to go. These are sketches, more cartoony stuff. This is my like default style. I try and, like I say, stay away from this kind of thing because it's easy for me in terms of it's my comfort zone. Not like I'm the best at it or anything like that. But these are sketches that I did pencil, then pen over the top for our wedding. We had these little things, wedding favors on the table. I made like a little zine to everybody about how me and Josie met and got together. She, on the first night we met, she did some Russian dancing just out of nowhere. She just dropped a bag, and this apparently is her party trick. So she'll be really embarrassed that I've said that. But so all these different things. We went to like Reunion Island and so on. So and she plays guitar, and I have to get things off the top shelf because she's a lot shorter than me. So this became a little zine, and so I just took pictures of this, touched it up in Photoshop, and then created a A4 print and made a little zine. Some more life drawing. This is getting better. So I did a life drawing class online with Carl Ganas. I can't remember how you say his name, but last year, and it was really useful because you get feedback on what you are doing. He obviously is more of a traditionalist. So when I was drawing a small head, large limbs, he's like, no, don't do that. Well, he doesn't tell you no, but he's kind of discourages you. He wants you to be able to draw the figure correctly first before you start to stylize, which I totally get. So he kind of smashed me out of my comfort zone a little bit with that. Started to try and get me to interlink the forms and the mass. And yeah, this is getting there. It was really fun. Like it was challenging, but it was fun. And I think it was over 10 weeks. I like this one because it's super quick and a fun angle. And then some other really loose ones here. It's like the lines are just falling to pieces in this one. And then finally, this one, very small little sketches. Okay, so where are we? We're back. Okay, so hi again. And yeah, thanks everybody for watching, for joining in at different points. And if you're catching it again and in the catch up, feel free to comment and let me know what's been useful to you and if there's anything else you'd like to know. But anyway, that was my little tour of my sketchbooks, and maybe do some more in the future. I am looking to put together like a little book, maybe in like PDF form and printable as well, where I've obviously scanned my best bits, a little bit of written stuff about what's going on, and then nice versions of them so you can have a look if you want to. It's mainly for me, my friends, and my family, but if you want to buy one, there'll be one available. So I'm trying to do that by the end of the year. Anyway, thanks very much, and hope to see you again in another live stream. We're maybe doing another one next week. I'm not sure on the topic yet, but have a look and you'll see it there. All right, cheers, bye.